Well, folks, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to all. And I can say that because we have people from many cultures and around the world watching. Folks, it's time I just come clean. I've lost my job because of exactly what I'm going to talk about. And the confirmation of the hatred in our culture. Why is that bothering me? That's not right. My beautiful Southern style curtain. The hatred towards Caucasians in America is real. And the people complaining about us the most are not making things any better. Rebranding and dehumanizing Caucasians. Let's talk about it. Because most people today, nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to be attacked or feel endangered. And yet we're being bullied. We're being bullied that everybody else can talk about their real or imagined racial victimization, except if it happens to us. Nobody can talk about racism if they're Caucasian because, well, there's a group of people out there that don't believe they're ever guilty of racism. Fascinating, isn't it? Cracker Barrel is the latest place to topple down the woke trail. The CEO, and we're going to get into this because this is unreal. That's the CEO of Cracker Barrel. You notice anything about these gals? Looks like Rachel Maddow, Rosie O'Donnell. They got those big clunky glasses. This was on the conservative twins. They're both black men commenting on what has recently been announced by the CEO of Cracker Barrel. They're changing things. They've changed the logo. They got rid of the man in the barrel. Number one, I'm not a Southerner. I live down here, but I really am not a Southerner. Out of all the places I've lived in the United States, I'm more of a Great Lakes kind of guy. And I apologize, but I think I'm getting a cold. You're going to hear some allergies and stuff, and congestion. I apologize for that. But whether I feel good or not, the stream goes on, and I feel that I have something to say. So if I turn away sometimes so you can look at her lovely face, please understand. The move in America to eradicate and destroy anything that can be perceived as racist is real. As we are coming up on the anniversary of 9/11, Americans have totally forgot what was the driving force of the men who commandeered jetliners and brought down two towers, damaged the Pentagon, and killed a bunch of passengers in a field in Pennsylvania. Nobody wants to talk about this. And since 9/11, we're letting people with those ideologies flood our country. We didn't learn from history. We have not learned from history. There are cultures and there are belief systems and ideologies that are destructive to us. And if we allow woke politics and businesses and employers and others to bully us and to not allow us to have a voice, they are doing the same thing that Adolf Hitler, Stalin, and Lenin and others have done. Freedom of speech is a gift of God, number one. It is embodied in our Constitution. And if we lose that, we lose everything. We got people in America that hate Caucasians. We got people in America that hate decency and respect. We got people in this country that get off on graffiti and tagging and rioting and tearing things up and stealing and helping themselves to everybody else's stuff. We have a dynamic in this country that has been getting worse and worse. I watched a video, actually several videos of Carnival Cruise Lines is imploding on itself. Cheap cruises bringing cheap acting people that don't know how to act on a boat, let alone back in their neighborhoods. Brawls and fights and chaos. And why anybody want to book on that? It's Carnival Cruise Lines has become Jerry Springer at sea. Cracker Barrel stock has plummeted with this as the head. You notice that liberal women, Rachel Maddow, Rosie O'Donnell, and even some of the guys that wear those glasses, they all look the same. Welcome to the soy generation. And I believe in change. And even the conservative twins, both African Americans, said they had never felt racial overtones in a Cracker Barrel. Ever. There's a black woman on her YouTube and she cannot speak proper English. Got the whole Ebonics thing going on. All these white people, they're white candy, all upset because Cracker Barrel, which is just racist. Racist. Really? I'd never heard that in my life. I stopped into a Cracker Barrel after touring the USS Alabama outside of Mobile. I walked in there, got my lunch. I'd never been in one in my life. Rocking chairs, overstuffed dining room chairs, big old hearth. You walk through a gift store loaded with Southern style iconic stuff. Not my thing. I'm not a Southern guy, but none of it was offensive to me. I walked in, had a good hearty lunch. Nobody bothered me, and I'm strange and different anyway. Got a 3-pound chain around my neck. I sat down and ate and left. That's the only time I've been in a Cracker Barrel in my life. I don't need it. It's not a favorite of mine. I'm happy going to a Vietnamese restaurant and getting fried rice. I'm easy to please. But I did a 3-minute short yesterday that what is wrong with having an iconic place that people love? I remember when I was a kid, they used to have fish and chip places out in California. You went down to the piers and they had seafood restaurants. They're gone now. But a lot of those places were just so, they just were cool. Seashell shops and stuff. And when I go into old seashell shops and they got the big old fishing nets hanging down and the old glass floats, young people don't even know what those are anymore. Blown glass floats and seashells. And these shops were not corporate. They were very eclectic and personal, and they were just unique. And even the conservative twins said the new Cracker Barrel logo, without the man in the barrel, is corporate. And they got tennis rackets hanging up in the booth now. And they said it looks like an Adidas store. And while they're debranding Caucasian culture, I see so many people out here rebranded Nike. Nike hat, Nike shirt, Nike jacket, Nike pants, Nike shoes. And I'm like, okay, so you guys are screaming about racism and white this and that, and you are a bought advertisement for Nike. Women, oh my gosh. I'm amazed at the hostility of many women in that group. They want to dress like guys, act like guys, talk like guys. The femininity and ladiness is just evaporated. And they're wearing dude clothes. They're wearing brand. And this is just my opinion. This goes for my own race. I've never been a fan of women wearing guys' sports jerseys and sports stuff. This is my opinion. Don't crucify me for that, people. It's just my opinion. I'm getting tired of a 13% of American population telling everybody else what they can and cannot say or do, while they run their mouth all day about white this, white that, white injustice, victimization, slavery still going on. It's been going on for 400 years, and we're not allowed to say anything. I just lost my job because I said, next time I move, I don't want to live in a place that's 53% of this dynamic. I don't use the N-word. I don't support that. And I've asked African-American people, why do you use the N-word? Well, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Well, it's a cultural thing. Okay, so Cracker Barrel's a cultural thing. And I did a 3-minute video yesterday, and a guy got on there and made some sort of inference that Cracker Barrel's racist. I said, oh my gosh, I never heard that in my life. When I lived in Denver, they had a Cracker Barrel, I think it was in Thornton, Colorado. And I went to a Southern Baptist church because the preacher was good. And you had a big enclave of Southern transplants there. And after church was over, they all went to Cracker Barrel. And I used to laugh, what's with Cracker Barrel? Now I know. It made them feel like they were down home. And I'm going to say it again. I moved to the South. I was curious about the South. Houses were cheap down there. I like Georgia. But I'm going to be honest. I don't like it when there's open hostility being displayed by a certain group of people to anything white. It's not okay. And we have every right to feel concerned. Adolf Hitler rose to power, and he systematically eroded the public's opinion of Jewish people through textbooks, through schools. And little by little, nobody stood up on Kristallnacht, the night of breaking glass, when Hitler's men went in and destroyed Jewish jewelry stores, banks, set everything on fire. That was the beginning. And it was so bad, and America's becoming this way right now. It was so bad that railroad trains were going behind Lutheran churches loaded with Jews headed for Auschwitz and whatever. And they would yell out, hoping that people in the church would have compassion and stop it. And German Lutheran pastors would say, sing louder so we don't have to hear it. Woke culture is threatening to the rest of us. But look what happened to Bud Light. Well, pal, I disagree with you. If they're going to throw down, if a white guy says it, then they shouldn't be using it themselves. And read your own statement. Me telling black people what to do. Dude, they're telling us what to do. They're telling us what we can and cannot say. And, you know, look at all the black women wannabe artists on YouTube with their slangology just attacking whites. One female on the conservative twins, and they were laughing at her. And people in the comments said she is not articulating well. She referred to white candy being sold in the store. Wow, I didn't know there was such a thing as white candy. Somebody want to educate me on that? Candy is candy. And there are some people within that 13% of the US population that believe everything is racist, that no matter what, I have intrinsic racism in me, that we are not allowed to say anything against rap music, against bad behavior. Go look on the internet. America is speaking out. The usual suspects. I am lactose intolerant. I have black fatigue. There are black men and women writing, I have black fatigue. I'm sick of what my race is doing. There are people coming out. Marty speaks. There are people coming out talking about exactly what I'm talking about. I have never promoted racism. And that's the weaponization of the word racism. It's the stigmatization. Instead of having a valid discussion, when a problem comes along, call him racist. When you disagree with him, call him racist. Dun, 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 must be racist. Dun, 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 race is bad. Dun, 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 he's a racist. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How come one group of people can say and be offensive and say whatever they want, and we're not even allowed to intelligently unpack what they're doing and say, no, this is incorrect? You are on the chat, man. Well, Jesse, this is my forum. You are welcome to create a YouTube channel. Please do. And I don't believe that there's anything that says you or me is more qualified. I'm just a man speaking by conviction. This is not a competition. It's not a competition. I'm going through my experience. Do I have a voice? Does my life matter? Do I have a right to say? There's a lot of people in this arena here, in this culture out here, that don't think I do. You got people on many different viewpoints in this country, but you got certain pockets or groups of people that don't believe I should have a right to free speech. Please tell me how that's not discriminatory. Tell me how that's not double standard. You don't hear me denigrating blacks. You will never hear me calling them the N-word. I won't do it. I don't use that word. No one can accuse me of using that word. And just like sometimes I have a problem with profanity, I can justify it all day long, but when you're using profanity as low class or no class, and it doesn't help me, okay? And it doesn't help anybody. When you're using the N-word, you are branding yourself as ignorant. You are branding yourself as not top of the intellectual list. It's a foul word. It's a racist word, and it's wrong. And Michael does not hate blacks. I have a Zambian friend for years in Facebook, school teacher, lives in Lusaka. I don't remember which one. She moved from one to the other, Lusaka and Kasama. She's teaching. She has 2 children that are extremely respectful. She knows, I believe, 3 languages well. And she asked me a question on Facebook several years ago, Michael, what is wrong with the African-American community in the U.S.? And we both started laughing. I said, honey, you got a few hours? She goes, they would not be able to do that in Zambia, Michael. They would not tolerate that. I told her about things I've experienced. I told her about the way a lot of the students behave down here. They're running off drivers. The ethnicity that is predominant down here is running off their own ethnicity from even wanting to drive them. And I like what a woman said today when they had the video on what's going on Carnival Cruise Lines, and says No amount of education, no amount of criminal justice is going to fix this problem. And we got an education system that coddles them. They're soft on them. We see that woman who was beat down in Cincinnati, one of her attackers, a grown man, and her sin, she didn't say the N-word. She come out of a jazz festival in a pretty dress and came into a direct collision course with THUG culture, running the streets, acting up. And she went to grab the arm of, I believe, another female who was being attacked, and he cold cocked her straight in the face. Now, you all can say whatever you want, but no matter what culture it is, you got a grown man punching a woman for no reason. That's a savage. And I say the same thing about a white guy. A white guy was in, I forgot what it is. I watched so much stuff. A white woman was with her boyfriend. They were at an event. Her boyfriend's drink spilled and accidentally spilled on the guy. He apologized. He got up, started a brawl, and he cold cocked her in the face. You're a special kind of loser if you're beating on women. And then when you see African American women stomping the head of a woman into the ground in Cincinnati who did nothing wrong, then it suddenly dawns on you, we got some scary acting, dangerous acting people that are not safe for civilized society roaming our streets. And we need to talk about this because we're being censored. We're being criticized. They can have their feelings hurt if you speak the truth. And we can have our feelings hurt when they're not speaking the truth. And there's all this crime element and destruction. I don't encourage racism at all. And it's true. I'm not racist. And the sad thing is, you are not allowed as a white person to talk about this in the eyes of many that take the exact opposite stance. I have a female friend who works in my workplace. She is African American. And I'll quote her. I don't fool with them people down there. You are the only one I've invited in my home. And she's even related to somebody down there. And you know what? We go to lunch. She's not ashamed to be seen with me in public. She checks in on me. There's a couple of them down here that do. One offered me a plate during Thanksgiving when I was working on hanging doors in my house on a rainy Thanksgiving day years ago. One took me to the hospital when I had the injury to my finger through no fault of my own and brought me home. I've dated black women in Colorado. I haven't dated anybody here. And I don't have racial hangups. Like anybody else, I have beliefs, I have opinions, and I have the right to agree to disagree. I have the right to counteract. I called a supervisor from out west. She'd been over me for 7 years. I had perfect attendance. She gave me 110% on my evals. She saw something I posted. She goes, "What is going on down there?" And I told her, she goes, "Oh boy." I said, "Can I use you as a reference still?" And she goes, "Absolutely." And we talked. I said, "You remember who I hang out with when I was at the terminal? You remember that?" I hung out with a lot of the black ladies. We got done with routes. One gal who was from Mississippi She was awesome. She was big, big gal. Michael, let's go over to Safeway and go get some chicken. I said, all right, let's go get some chicken. And I got along with them. None of them ever accused me of being racist. One was having a problem paying her rent, and I gave her a gift. We don't need to talk about how much. Gave her a gift. I said, you don't pay it back. This stuff in America has gone on too far. I'm getting tired of people getting their feelings hurt if me as a white guy speaks up. And she did. My supervisor said, you are very outspoken. I said, I know, and obviously that's landed me in trouble. And even she said, and she's from Germany. She came here from Germany many years ago. She retired out from my former workplace. And she said, don't you know, you're not allowed to talk about these things. I never use the term reverse racism, because I don't believe in that. I just use the term racist. There's an element in that 13% ethnic dynamic that is very much racist. They hate us. They hate our music. They hate everything about us. They want to talk smack about anything involving us. And you look at what they bring to the table. You look at how they're dressed. You look at how they act in public. Why is nobody allowed to comment on that? If I go out in the store and pull my pants down and make a complete horse's patootie out of myself, are people going to comment on it? I would say they would. We've all come to be familiarized with only at Walmart. A white woman who's 400 pounds wearing a thong, butt cheeks hanging out, dental floss up the crack, and everybody's like, "Wah!" But somewhere out there, there's an unwritten rule. You cannot say the black word. Blacks can say the N-word, but I, as a white guy, cannot say the black word. I can have no commentary or opinion or objective conversation on it. And yet, you've got Maudie Speaks. You've got the conservative twins. You got women, black women coming on. You got young black guys coming on saying, what is all this hatred towards whites? I listened to a guy yesterday. I really wish I could, this stuff on Facebook, I could post it right here. And everybody can peruse it for themselves. The backlash is coming. People are tired of it. And people have a right to dissent. I don't support rioting and violence. And there are people listening to me. They've done it on this channel. They've done it in my workplace. Have threatened, would do bodily harm because I'm speaking the truth. Man, even if you disagree with me, I'm not the one setting the African American community on flames. I'm not the one doing it. People that have followed my stream and listened to my videos when I was a little kid, growing up in a small mountain town in California, and sit there eating your cereal for breakfast in the morning, and you got your little milk carton out, and you say, have you seen me? And you see a little black girl, and even me, as a little white hyper boy that was into snow and snowplows, would stop. And I think that's sad. That poor little girl is missing and not being tucked into bed. And it bothered me. It bothered me. But you got blacks don't criticize me for saying that. Oh, listen to him. I mean, you cannot have intelligent discourse with a certain element of this group of people. Their contribution to society, this element, not the whole 13%, but I don't know what the percentage of the 13% of that ethnicity does not bring anything good to the table. The pants down, butt cheek culture, the sag culture, the going up and down the streets with, how loud do you need it to be where your license plate and your trunk's vibrating and you're shaking every house? It's the alpha male insecure complex. It's the peacock syndrome. Look at me. You say anything about it, you comment on it, you look at me, I'm going to kill you. We got a right to talk about this. I'm not the one burning your houses down and stealing your stuff. I'm not the one that's a danger to you. You are a danger to the rest of us. In my workplace, I heard them talk about Asians. They can't stand Asians. Oh, Asians are racist. Asians are racist. They follow us around in their stores. Gee, I wonder why. Did you know they followed me around when I was in Hong Kong? Man, I was with Myra, a Filipina, good-looking woman. We went into an antique store in Hong Kong. The furniture they have out of there is upwards of 1,000 years old. Tibetan pieces of furniture, you cannot just walk out the door. You need several men in a truck. Hand-carved beds, solid cherry wood, whatever, all scroll work with the back. You're not going to walk out the store with that. The Chinese lady's that close to me. I turn around, I said, can I help you? I'm just looking. I said, okay, you're too close. And yes, she was acting like, I looked at her, I said, do they think I'm going to shoplift? And she said, no, that's what they do here. And then I just ignored it and we looked. I learned in China, don't touch anything unless you intend to buy it. Look at it, get close to it, do not touch it or pick it up. I did a video when I lived in Hong Kong. Chinese in Hong Kong are rude. 1,000 views a week, 100,000 views. I had Chinese Hong Kongers writing and saying, I wish I could meet you. Everything you said is true. I'm Chinese. I live here all my life. And even I get sick of it. Why is it African Americans can talk about our race all day long and they can throw broad snow shovel size paintbrushes? You're privileged. Wow. I'd like to know how. I didn't earn $1 billion being a talk show host off mostly white stay-at-home moms. And I didn't buy 8 mansions, all in white areas, Telluride, Aspen, Montecito, and Lahaina. We have a right. And when you have I'm going to bring Democrat Party into this. You bring the Democrat Party into here. And I appreciate everybody chatting. And thank you, Sam. How are you doing? And I have come to the conclusion, there's different kinds of art. There's impressionist, there's classical, realist, and then there's abstract. Abstract is difficult. I was in the Minneapolis Institute of the Arts on a field trip years ago, and I walked into the art exhibits and a lot of beautiful stuff. And then you come across a huge, almost wall-sized canvas where somebody took a gallon of house paint and popped the lid and went, I said, what is this? It's considered art. I remember years ago when the NEA, the National Endowment of the Arts, was endorsing somebody peeing on a crucifix. Folks, that's not art. Throwing a bucket of paint at a canvas is not art. Graffiti on the sides of trains and buildings is not art. I remember years ago they even had signature edition railroad car toys that you could buy. No offense, guys, but graffiti's ugly. Every time I see it, I go, well, this is a neighborhood you don't want to live in. And I was talking to David, who comes in here. He lives in New Jersey. We're talking about Patterson, where the movie Lean on Me, Joe Clark, Morgan Freeman. He's driving with his dash cam on, and he went by a parking lot. There was what looked like a budget truck that had been painted white. completely covered. I said, wow, I see that nice signature edition box truck. And he started laughing. Cars on the side of the street, graffitied, the buildings, the alleyways, everything. I said, wow, New Jersey looks like a real hole. And he said, Patterson, where that movie was based off of, is even worse. Look at Baltimore. Look at Detroit. Look at Southside Chicago. Look at Compton. They want to say that I'm privileged. I've never been. I grew up in an abusive home. I was adopted, abused by the ones that adopted me. My mom's still alive, but I'm not in contact with her. I tried. And it just got to the point where I said, you know what? Sometimes you have to let go and move on. I didn't learn a lot from growing up under them. I had to figure it out the hard way. I made a lot of mistakes. And I still make mistakes. And I take accountability for my actions. I take accountability when I say or do something wrong. But I did not do wrong by stating a fact based on my years of experience out here and collectively from other places in the nation. I'm not the one spewing racial hatred. That does not come out of me ever. But I feel like we got the tails wagging the dog. Read the comments on YouTube. Why is it the 13% gets to tell everybody else how to live? And you got ignorant people getting on YouTube now saying Cracker Barrel's racist, Herschel is racist. I'm like, they said Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben. By the way, Uncle Ben's rice, the jasmine rice, is some of the best. And they got surviving family members of Aunt Jemima said this was not racism. She existed. Dr. Seuss is racist. But you know what you didn't hear them say? 2020, when everything was upended, they never talked about Margaret Sanger. The African American community never talked about Margaret Sanger. You notice all these people making dumb, ignorant comments, no picture, no content. Keyboard warriors abound today. Luke doesn't know, and Luke doesn't have a right to comment on this forum anymore. Goodbye, Luke. You know who's rage baiting, by the way? It is not us. See, the way many people are wired today is they're looking for a fight. They're looking for an excuse to go into a complete frenzy. They get to hold the stage. The Democrat Party has made that stage for them. Not one word of condemnation was issued by one black leader during 2020 when the riots went from Portland to New York and went on. That a situation that happened in Minneapolis is now justification for tearing up stores, police precincts, homes, people, businesses, Target, AutoZone, Wendy's. And I'm sitting there going, now how does that all make sense? You got an issue with a cop and a person, and that suddenly goes into full volcanic. And you got media saying systemic racism, defund the police. And then they interviewed an older black woman that lives in the not so good area of Baltimore, and she said, please do not defund the police. I'm in danger by my own race. The whites are not the ones that scare me. And I've even went so bold as to say, I believe white people are more fearful of blacks than blacks are of whites. Just what I've observed. I've watched white people, they're very careful not to say anything. They're very, even in my workplace, people from another department, people I work with, they talk to me all day long. I agree, but they're not going to say that. They're scared. They don't want to be beat up. They don't want to be attacked. Boy, if that isn't a form of manipulation and control, they want freedom of speech, but I don't have a right. What law is that one? You know, I tell you what. No, you are crazy and you're gone. Oh, they're cashews without salt. Oh, if I can get it up. You know what? I got to get rid of this screensaver. It's killing me, man. Actually, they're cashews. I can't show the bag. So that's the new brand now. No more barrel, no more dude. That's it. And now the tail's wagging the dog. And that's what we're dealing with. When a tiny, tiny percentage of people get offended, we have to cater to them. When that same tiny percentage is graffitiing, is degrading music with all the profanity, the N-word, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj culture, and tearing everything up, and they're screaming and yelling about whites and privilege, and they want to knock over anything white, and yet they look like an advertiser for Nike. The young ladies in the ethnic community look more like dudes. They talk like dudes, act like dudes, and they're stomping the face of white women on the streets in Cincinnati. Yeah, I think we have a right to comment on that. And yes, Jesus said something profound. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. If the people that are getting so angry at me for telling the truth, threatening me, calling me names, they're not free. Free people don't kill people and threaten people. Free people don't threaten and kill people. People in chains of darkness emulate their father, the devil. He's a liar. He's a murderer. He seeks to devour. And when you are spewing all this hate because I'm speaking the truth, somebody said I'm race baiting. Excuse me, I never have race baited, but I've seen that element been doing it for decades now. Compliments of the Democratic Party. And I ask them all the time, y'all voted for Biden. And we're going to talk about Margaret Sanger because there's a bunch of ignorant people in this room that want to talk about me, but they don't want to talk about this. So let's keep rolling this beautiful bean footage. Okay? That's off the commercial Bush's Baked Beans. Don't read anything into that, everybody. I got to put on the fan. We got some bands of weather coming off of that hurricane. It's supposed to be rain and flooding here today. That thing is a monster, by the way. That thing's 500 to 700 miles across. And it's almost like God is reminding everybody on the coast, you see this out here? And it's just staying just off. If that baby slammed into the Carolinas, it's over. That's a huge one. And we got a lot of people living in this country without God, without fear of God. We got a bunch of people right here listening to me that do not submit to this at all. The Bible says, do not get revenge. Even if you disagree with me, even if you disagree with something that happened out there in the media that they've blown up, you do not have a right to riot and tear things up. And I would remind that community of people that claim to fear God while their leaders are silent while Rome burns about something right here. And we're going to find it, so give me a minute. To get into the right book here. Romans pretty much states where things are at with Christians, okay? Listen to Romans 13, okay? All you haters out there. Let every person be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, he who resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. When the police tell you to put your hands in the air, you put them in the air. How do you not get that? And you see the video after video that the media and the Democratic Party blows the hot fire on to blow it up and make it look like systemic racism. See the cop with the body cam. Need your hands where I can see them. Need you to put your window down, and you see non-compliance every time. And then they're reaching. That officer has to make a decision, people. They reaching for a weapon? Do what you're told. And that's the problem. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword for nothing. It is a minister of God, an avenger who brings wrath upon the one who practices evil. Wherefore it is necessary to be in subjection, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes. For rulers are servants of God, devoting themselves to this very thing. Render to all what is due them, tax to whom tax, due custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe nothing to anyone except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. Can I say something, community? You going down the street, playing your offensive music, shaking people's homes. You're not respecting or honoring nobody. And you expect us to sit there and be quiet and say nothing. I pay taxes. And as long as I pay taxes, I have a right to speak. Okay? That's number one. But even if I'm renting an apartment, I, as an American, have God-given rights from his word to speak the truth. And our Constitution allows that. And you got more and more people that want to turn our culture upside down, push white culture over the cliff, and want to sit here and bring in low-class, rude, horrible, profane music, grown woman, scantily clad, twerking, singing mother effer in front of her 3-year-old daughter. What kind of an example are you setting for the children? Does that even register with some of you guys that hate me? I mean, this is the problem. And most of you grew up in homes with mothers like that, the ones that hate me. And you're not men. You're emotionally driven boys, and the only thing you know how to do is to fight or shoot. I'm not talking about all, but you got an element out there of that right there. We're supposed to be silent. We're supposed to be bullied. We're not allowed to say anything. You talk about our race all day long. All night long, all night. And we're not allowed to say anything. How does that work? What rule book is that written in? Being outspoken costs. John the Baptist told Herod, that woman you're with, that's your brother's wife. It's not right. John got his head chopped off for that. And you know what Jesus had to say about him? Among men born of women, there is no one greater than John the Baptist. I hate to say this, and nobody likes to admit this as a Christian. Hold the thought. We're going to talk about Margaret Sanger. We're going to educate some people today. Sometimes, and we as Americans, we firmly believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But some people's definition of happiness is very contrary to yours and mine. Some people's definition of happiness is just rejoicing in evil. And for a child of God, we do not rejoice in evil. We want safe streets. We want respectful neighbors and respectful people. You know, when you come into a neighborhood, turn your music down, show some respect. But you got people out there that are hostile, hateful, because they're of their father, the devil. So forget the black versus white thing. When I see all this hate, you just prove who your master is. And therefore, you're still slaves. Slaves to darkness, slaves to the devil, slaves to unrighteousness. And the Bible talks about that. And I will not apologize for being Irish. We were slaves. That's not taught in the public schools today. But let's talk about Margaret Sanger. She was white. She's gone from this world now. Read her comments. She truly hated. She truly was racist against black people. And in 2020, when they were toppling everything, nobody said a word about Margaret Sanger. Nobody. Margaret Sanger was the mother, the initiator of Planned Parenthood. And in her writings, you can find them. She wanted to remove the black community through abortion. I didn't see anybody target an abortion clinic in 2020. And I'm not encouraging anybody to target an abortion clinic or anything. I do not support that behavior. When I was in Hong Kong, a marine engineer sat in the booth across from me. A Chinese guy sails ships from Hong Kong to San Francisco. And we had a very good discussion, and he said, you know, Michael, I watch your news a lot over here, and I see that what is wrong with the black community? The riots. He said, if they did that here, I said it'd be over. I said, you can't say anything that offends them or they get set off. Nobody cared about Rodney King. Nobody cared about Trayvon Martin. Nobody cared about Michael Brown. Nobody cared about I can't even remember the guy's George Floyd. Until the media spun it. And the media is guilty of race baiting. They air a story without knowing all the facts, throw it out there, creates the rage, and downtown anywhere bursts into flames. The Bible says, do not get revenge. God says, it is mine to repay. This is a lesson that's not been learned by an element of that community. They're going to get revenge. In my workplace, I heard over and over, snitches get stitches. That intimidation, that if you turn in anything. Is that what this teaches? Is that what this teaches? The bottom line is, many that behave this way don't want us to have a voice because there's something called conviction. They're angry, they're mad because I and others are telling the truth. The truth is offensive to those that believe in lies. The truth is offensive. When I and others are trying to walk in the light and you call it out, people that walk in darkness gnash their teeth, they're disturbed inside and they're angry. And instead of repenting and getting on their knees and confessing to God all their wickedness, they want to project. And that is what is going on. That is what is going on. You can't watch mainstream anymore. Mainstream has become poison. It has become toxic. It is no longer professional journalism. The word professional has taken on a transformation. Professionalism in the hands of people that went to college, in feminist and there's actually college classes that teach. I refer to my lady friend Nashanda, coal black skin, lived in Barbados. We used to talk live on Skype. And she was attending years ago the university down there, and she said, Michael, I thought I'd take women's studies. I thought it'd be interesting. Michael, they were bashing males. Women, you don't need men. It's okay to be lesbian. She said they were pushing lesbian. They're pushing an anti-male bias. She said, I failed the class. She goes, I don't agree with this stuff. In Barbados, a black woman's being taught to hate men in Barbados. This stuff is real. I remember years ago when I'd pull up at schools in Denver, Colorado, younger white teachers, very rude, very rude. I'd pull up. They wouldn't acknowledge me. I'd be standing outside the bus. Kids would say, hi, hi, hi. She'd ignore me, get on the bus, yell at the kids. Are you the teacher, ma'am? Yes, I am. Ooh, we got tone going on today, too. Oh, okay. Just wasn't sure who was in charge of this group. You can't greet me and say hello. You take it. Yeah. And one of our senior drivers said, what is with the rudeness from these teachers today? I said, because feminism and a lot of them to get their education are being taught to shun, ignore, demonize white men because we're patriarchal. Well, let me tell you something. Black men are patriarchal too. They believe in being the head of their house. And you know what that's based on? Right here. Right here. And our society's breaking down on all levels. And what's really sad about the African-American community, and no matter what people have to say against me, 75% of black women are left holding the bag with the children. So the black guys want to get on showing me all this hate. You need to go back and love your women and stay with your woman and raise your kids and teach them that guns and fights are not the way to deal with problems. You need to learn to agree to disagree. You need to learn to get educated. You need to learn to respect. But no. And why do the Democrats do this? Because they want votes. Nancy Pelosi and all these people that are encouraging this race baiting, rage baiting, they don't live in Compton. They don't live in the main core streets of America. They're in gated, protected communities. And it's crazy. White people are still the minority. Caucasian people are, still the majority in the U.S. And out of that 13%, I stress that because not all blacks are like this. You got high-class blacks. You got blacks that see and know and believe the truth. And they don't vote Democrat. And ask them. I don't want to be around my people. And they move. Oprah Winfrey talks about white privilege. Where did she buy her mansions? Not one in Compton, not one in Baltimore, not one in Detroit, not one in Southside Chicago. She lived outside Chicago in the mansion area. How about Barack and Michelle Obama? Constantly saying whites are empire builders, whites are racist, privilege. Oh, well, they bought a house in Martha's Vineyard. That's really black, ain't it? I mean, come on. Do I not have a right to make a logical, deductive comment? You say all these things. And then Michelle said, whites don't move into black neighborhoods. She was saying that to make us look bad. Yeah, and when you got money, you didn't move to a black neighborhood either. Can you tell the audience why? Did it really, K-Bar? They do have a higher birth rate than we do. They do. So that surprises me. So I talk about the problem. What is it going to take to solve this? Well, it depends on who you ask. So I'm going to give you my answer. If we don't return to this as truth, if we don't go back and realize in Genesis that God created the earth in 6 days and he made Adam and Eve and we all descended from them, it all depends on your worldview, folks. You either believe this or you don't. Or you claim to, but you don't pay attention to what the contents are. God did not create racism. God created exotic diversity. Look, go scuba diving. I've never scuba dived, but I've looked at pictures of people who have. Go out in some of those beautiful islands overseas and get down in those turquoise water and look at all the color. And you got sea anemones and clownfish and barracuda and angelfish. And it's just beautiful. When I was in Hong Kong and I was involved with the Filipino culture, a lot of Filipinos felt bad about their flat noses. They'd say, pango, pango, pango ilong, flat nose. I said, why are you bothered by that? But I want a nose like yours. I said, stop. You're beautiful just the way you are. I was looking at pictures of the ladies in Africa, the Himba tribe. They put this clay in their hair. Some of those women are drop dead gorgeous to me. Nope, they're not what you're going to see on the centerfold of Sports Illustrated, but I'm different. I'm attracted to the exotic. I wish I could go and live amongst them. They encourage that. You're allowed to come in and hang out as long as you don't try to. They're very nomadic. They're black. They do not use water to wash. They have a way of cleaning themselves because they live in very arid African places out there. Places that we would burn up like a lobster. I'm fascinated by the Himba tribe. They're not acting like savages. And yet, if you looked at their dress, you would think that they were wild savages. The women are topless. They got necklaces and they got wraps and things around their waist. I'm curious about them. And I'm sorry to say this, but they're not all gross they're clean. And they believe in being clean and smelling good, and they use no water. I never thought I'd see the day in America where hygiene is going downhill, bed bugs have come back, our cities are just decaying. Go to the inner city, it's not safe, it's not pretty. And I'm disturbed by the fact that we are being bullied for even speaking about this issue. Threats are made. You know, if whites are so bad, if we're so terrible, why do you stay? Why do you steal stuff that the whites invented and made? If we're so bad, why do you have your phone in your hand? You didn't make it. That car you're driving, you didn't make it. You did not invent it. And I look at contributions that cultures have made to society. And for a percentage of bad acting people yelling and railing against us, I just simply look over and say, what have they brought that is being productive good for all of us? And I am not saying that whites are superior, but what is happening is the push, the anti-white, anti-Caucasian, the pro-woke movement. And do you notice they're putting LGBT in this, pitting the LGBT community? Let me say something right now. I got a book on the shelf that talks about the behavior, the Gestapo, the SS, the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. They were openly homosexual, and yet they were killing homosexuals. It's very strange. And now I've talked about this on my channel. I've had an aggressive, predatory, homosexual troll come after me for 10 years. This idea of can we all just get along? It doesn't work. People have an agenda. People have motives. If I say anything that this says about homosexual and lesbian, somebody even made another channel calling me a transphobe when I'm wearing a tube top. I said, well, you kind of contradicted yourself. Y'all come on here and call me a crossdresser, and then you go create a channel and say I'm transphobe. And I'm neither. And if you notice, if any of you followed my live stream over a week ago, I burned all that stuff. I did not burn this because these are the cut off bottom of my own t-shirts. And when I'm in my house, I just put it around me like a tube top. But no, I'm not into men. And I'm not changing my sex. And I'm becoming more and more vocal because our country is being eroded. Our values are being eroded. Our safety is being eroded. You look at what Gavin Newsom's doing to California, and there's an exodus. People are tired of it. And they're leaving the state. You know, it's funny. School systems are now catering to make sure that certain people are no longer uncomfortable while they're stomping on with sledgehammer boots on the rest of us toes. Catering to one while offending the rest. Read the comments online about what I'm talking about the bad element in the African American community. And there's a bad element in the white community, bad element in the Asian community. I've seen I equally talk about all of it. People are typing in the comments, ashamed of nothing, offended by everything. When you got a white girl in Portland with earrings coming out of every part of her face, looks like an explosion with a tackle box, screaming in the streets about the injustice as they're spray painting storefront windows, and you're just going, wait a minute, you're vandalizing property and you're screaming about injustice. Okay, gotcha. I need to understand statistics better when you're calling me bruh. No, don't think so. The crime stats are against exactly what I'm talking about, all by themselves. I don't know what you're talking about, corporate versus private. I earlier talked about rioting and destroying people's businesses, stealing goods out of their stores. And one black woman got on national TV and said these are called reparations. Oh, so now stealing's legitimized. Okay. You know, it's funny. When that woman was beat down in Cincinnati, did you see the white community go into the black neighborhood and set everything on fire? Did you see them do that? No, they didn't. But George Floyd, a guy who held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. A black woman. Not one outcry from the males in the black community about that. They didn't take to the streets about that. They didn't care. Nobody even knew George Floyd. George Floyd was loaded up on fentanyl. He had COVID, he had a heart condition. And the reason he was saying he could not breathe, he was saying he couldn't breathe before Chauvin had his knee in his neck. But CNN, MSNBC, which are the race baiters, showed the latter video that showed this big man on the ground with smaller Chauvin's knee on the base of the neck here, which was an allowed procedure by the Minneapolis PD at that time. And they say, oh, he killed him. The original coroner's report stated, no, he did not die from that. He had extreme toxic levels of fentanyl. And what I told people, it's very interesting because you saw the video that came out before that was not put on the major news networks, but after. They tried to get him in the patrol car, and he did what I call the toddler thing. And I've said this before. You pick up a bratty acting kid in a daycare center, acting up, and uncooperative, and you pick them up, and they put their arms and legs out all directions. You're trying to get through the doorway, and you can't because this kid's going, ah, and being as difficult as you can. And same thing. Instead of George Floyd just getting in the car and sitting down, so you shut the door, process this. No. He rolls down on the floor, sticks his long legs out. Not once did you see Chauvin's men trying to cramp the door and blast his legs. So your idea that Chauvin tried to kill him is baseless. And he's laying there, nothing on his face. Nobody's on him. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And it's funny that just me looking at that going, wow, if this had been aired first, it would have given context to the whole thing. But the media knows what they're doing. Sensationalize. And the media loves to film all the destruction. I'll tell you what, if I ran a news channel, I'd cut the cameras. I'd say, we're not going to give glorification of this. We'll talk about what happened, but we're not going to. They want to see themselves on the news. I remember in Baltimore, they rioted a few years ago. They showed an African-American woman who was a security guard for an institution down there robbing the stores. Wow, that's interesting. During the riots. You guys have to realize you can't talk about us and we're going to take it and be silent and can't say anything. That doesn't work that way. That does not work that way. That's tribal law. We the tribe, we rule, shut your mouth. This is the United States. I have a right to dissent. I have a right to disagree. I have a right to form and smith out my own views and opinions. And a lot of what I'm talking about is not opinion, but bona fide fact. And all you guys that are typing paragraphs and stuff, this is my rant. I'm not reading your book because I interact with people, but comments are a little shorter. If you see the chats going, I can't keep up with all that. So save yourself the effort. Write me a book and unfortunately, I can't give you my address to send it to me because I don't trust people. There are people that would be a threat to me just for speaking the truth. You've not heard me say one racist word. I do not use the N-word. I did not say I hate black people or black color. Never said that because it's not in me. But I will tell you something. I'm tired of this coming up again and again and again. Things are quiet in America and then boom, something blows up. The riots take place. Everybody gets free TVs. And guess what? Everybody's seeing it. So before you get mad at me, there's millions of Americans, black, Asian, Hispanic, and white, that are tired of that percentile within the black community that's giving the African American culture an extremely bad name. And Morgan Freeman summed it up. You want stats? Listen to your own. 75% of the problems in the African American community in the United States are brought on by themselves. Boom. That's from him. I've talked about Epstein, and you're going to put me down on that right now when you haven't listened to any of my other content. Sounds like you're uneducated. I talk about a lot of issues. But the reason I'm putting a lot of focus on this is because there's an element in the African American community that has to be the baby in the room going, ah, and everybody notice. So I'm going to comment on that because it's like you got good people trying to live in society. And now something happens over here that nobody even knows this dude. And the media spins it and lies about it. And now that element of the black community starts running the racial carousel, broken record, and now we're going to riot, all the injustice, all the systemic racism. I'm like, over some fool using counterfeit money to buy something in a store. And the guy told him, you can put that item down and we'll drop it. And classic fashion, I ain't going to submit to nobody. Police were called. If the police did not involve with George Floyd that day, that man would have died on his own because the amount of fentanyl that was in his system. Did you know that? And the coroner stated that. The family that wanted 27 million easy free dollars. I love the media showing the little black girls, they don't have a father anymore. Oh, isn't that sad? Dad's out using counterfeit money. He was in jail. He held up a pregnant woman with a gun to her belly. And do you think that his family cared about that? So they don't care what blacks do to other blacks. They only make a ruckus when there's a white person involved. What does that say about your race, folks? I'm a white guy saying, no black man, white man, Asian man should hold a gun to any woman's belly or a black woman. But there was no outrage from the black community over that because you shred your women. You shred them. And black women will play that race carousel all day long. But even they know in the back of their mind that white boys speaking truth, that all the black men that act like alphas and buy 3-foot pimpy rims and got pants sag going to abandon their children, use the women as a cum dump, and move on. And God has made it very clear about the importance of a family. And you got little boys growing up under emotionally driven moms, listening to foul music, doing stuff they shouldn't be doing in front of their kids. And these kids never learn to cope. They never learn to problem solve. Their dropout rate, their failure rate in society and school is going to be right there. I'm getting tired of people telling me from that element that I don't got a right to talk about it. That's bullying. That's harassment. That's one-sided. It is amazing how within this society, that element will rationalize, justify it, and twist it all around that I'm wrong. I'm not the one doing this stuff. Never was. And back to the abstract art. You have a percentage of people within the African American community that do not have sound reasoning. They're abstract thinkers. Anything that happens, they are going to twist it beyond reasonable. They've been programmed and conditioned by the Democratic Party, the party that kept them in slavery, the party that invented the KKK, the party that invented Jim Crow laws and all that. Talk about deceived. The Democrats fought to keep slaves. And the black community has totally ran and given a group hug to the slave owners once again. And then they're screaming about Republicans, screaming that Trump is racist. Oh my gosh, does it ever end? And there's a victimhood mentality. And they seem comfortable with decade after decade riding that carousel. It never goes anywhere but round and round. And it never gets better. It's not improving. Same stuff, different day. Again and again. They're not rising with wings of eagles. Their music, which used to be something that we all listened to, now you got a lot of this music that disturbed, dysfunctional, insecure, dangerous young people are listening to, and is becoming a battle cry for violence and hate, and it's depressing. I'm sorry, but Cardi B's got nothing on Louis Armstrong. Nicki Minaj has nothing on Barry White. Look at the arts, look at the music, look at the direction, and let's get off of this. Let's talk about a video my friend in Cleveland sent to me. Where real friendships, interpersonal relationships are becoming a thing of the past. That we are becoming addicted. We are addicted to social media. I'm guilty. I get up in the morning, I pick up my phone. And I realize more and more, what does it take for me as a Christian to realize more than anything else? I need God. I don't need this phone. I need God. Why do we not spend the time? Why do we not wake up and immediately go to Him? Because our culture doesn't teach us that. I do need God. How come I spend more time in conversation with everybody else but Him? And I believe everybody else can relate to that. God is the only one who will ultimately, in His time, put an end to all the foolishness of governments, people. I can't wait for His reign to return. I can't wait until God delivers me from my own self. I can't wait until I'm in His presence where I will never sin, think a wrong thought. And when I'm talking about these issues, all these people that disagree with me right now, do you have a heart for God? Do you have a passion for Him? Do you want to be like Him? Do you want to see His face? I'm pretty much guessing by the stance you take, that's probably not even remotely in you. So, of course, you wouldn't understand my views. You're not going to accept my views because the Bible talks about the God of this world has blinded the eyes of those that are perishing. If you're not a Christian, you're under the authority of Satan. And Satan doesn't do anything to you because he already owns you. Satan comes after us that believe. And wouldn't it make reasonable sense for people that are in darkness to gnash their teeth? You don't got a right to speak. You're a racist. That's Satan, the accuser of the brethren. Accused doesn't mean you got a based accusation. You just throw stuff. Disagreeing with woke culture, the LGBTQ community, the element within the black community that's protesting everything, does not make one a racist, a homophobe, or a bigot. And that is what is happening in our society. The minute any of us open our mouth, throw the word racist out there. That's the only arrow from their castle they can throw. And I can hold up the shield of the truth and go, bonk, bye. You know what's sad? Floyd was not an example of a godly man. He was not an example of a loving, proper acting father. And his family got what, $27 million? His contribution to society was not good. I thought it was very interesting. I believe it was in Ohio. Had an old building that had been there, brick and mortar. Somebody built or did a mural on the entire wall of George Floyd's face. And even a black guy on YouTube talked about this. A lightning bolt came down and hit that thing dead center, blew the bricks out of the whole wall of the building. And even I said, even God said, I'm not supporting this foolishness. When a criminal, they want to make statutes about, God said, I will share my glory with no other. This is ridiculous. They're holding him up. They want to topple Robert E. Lee and all these statues and claim everybody's racist. What is this? And you want to make a statue about that. Now, again, I'm not a Southerner. Okay? I don't wave the Confederate flag. Since everybody wants to talk woke, I identify more as a Northerner. And for a while, I lived in Southeast Asia. And it was nice to live in a place where you didn't have this dynamic at all. Let me say that again. It was nice to live in a place where you did not have this dynamic at all. That I could enjoy Asia and Asian culture. And what's sad is this young generation that's raised on this hatred and this ignorance, they're not rising to the top. They're just keeping the crap going. I would challenge anybody, you guys want stats. Those of you that are talking statistics, go read about Cabrini Green in Chicago. It's been destroyed. It's been dismantled because it was ridiculous. You want to play stats game, I will win this game. The hatred in your music, the foulness, the vulgarity, the sexualization, objectification of your culture and inappropriate dress. When I go into Walmart, I go into the stores and you got grown women, the old bras and all that stuff hanging out, and they're 350 pounds and they're yelling at their kid, screaming at them in the store, making a scene. And I'm wondering, good grief. That's what that little boy's got to grow up with as a role model. Emotionally driven logic. And then they get up against another man. They're taught to hate us. And me just telling the truth could be a threat to my own life. Isn't that great that we have this dynamic in the U.S.? Look at their neighborhoods. Look at the behavior. Look at the statistics. Look at Carnival Cruise Lines. Look at, you got 1 week, a white woman getting tore up for no reason by a bunch of black lawless people. One of them just released again from jail. These liberal judges let him back on the street. Or a black man in Seattle let out again and again and again and again, broke into the window of a senior low-rise, climbed up on an 80-year-old woman and raped her and killed her in Seattle. And you're going to tell me I don't have a right to talk about what's going on in the African-American community? You got to be out of your mind. And then within a week, a black woman's having an altercation with another, and she takes her car and runs over 3 little children. Do you know why I'm talking about an African-American community? Get on YouTube and look. Get on Facebook and look at what's showing up every single day. We got a hurricane that's 500 to 700 miles just lazily cruising around the Atlantic. But we got a storm in this country that's doing more destruction than that thing is. And it's racially motivated against us, against their own. No one can tell me what I can and cannot talk about. They can bully, they can intimidate, they can kill, but no one can tell me. The only one that can tell me about proper conversation is this. And God says, let no unwholesome communication proceed out of thy mouth. So those of you that are cussing and hating, you don't know this book and you don't know the God of this book. So you do not have a right to even weigh in anymore because you're wrong. When you got low-class culture destroying Carnival cruises, destroying the streets, going to come up and tell me that I got no right, by what authority do you operate from? Satan or God? We all know the answer. I have marching orders from the Most High, not you. My directives come from my commanding officer, which is Christ. And Christ told me to tell the truth. And it's a fact. As America, as we as a world are heading to the end, when the tribulation will come down on the earth, it's going to get hostile for Christians. During the tribulation, Christians will be martyred for their faith. They will be killed. And already we're seeing in America, people are losing their jobs. People are being victimized for speaking the truth. While the group over here that's making the most noise and causing the most damage, the police departments were told in 2020, don't touch them, leave them alone. Oh, okay, let them tear up everything. That's crazy. God talks about submitting to the governing authorities. And there's going to be a lot of dark-skinned people standing before the throne of God one day, and God's going to say, nope, 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 that's it. This is my word. This is my laws. Did you put your faith in Jesus Christ? Oh, you didn't, so let's judge you by my law. Fail, 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 fail. Tearing up stuff, yelling, screaming, calling everybody a racist because they disagree with you, listening to foul, vulgar rap music with profanity and the N-word, twerking culture, all that. I'm sorry, folks. That ain't going to get you close to Jesus Christ. And people will say, you're criticizing my culture. Well, I will criticize any culture that is demonic, okay? And that goes for white culture, M&M culture, trash, garbage, profane, angry, destructive. I would challenge you guys to do an interview that disagree with me and go ask the Hispanic and the Asian community how they feel about all this. Many of them have voiced the same concerns. 2020, we saw brutal attacks on Asians. We saw a grown black man whacking an Asian woman in the subway, doing stuff like that for no reason. When you're a grown man and you're attacking women, there's something wrong with your manhood, bro. Something wrong. This is not a jungle. This is supposed to be a civilized country. And you can blame everything on systemic racism. Nobody made you attack that woman. Nobody. You did it. And that is why a lot of people get out of those areas and move out and leave. They don't want to be around that. They don't want to raise their children that. Real estate values plummet when that stuff takes over. People don't feel safe. And the last few years, I've heard the most ridiculous statements coming out of universities that white people wanting to be safe is a form of racism. Really? Really? So if I'm here in Georgia and everybody's armed, by the way. I walk up on a black man's front porch and try to break in his house. You think he's going to say, hey, can I help you? He's going to shoot me or tear me up. There's a lot of people that want safety. So if a black person wants to be safe and moves out of the black neighborhood, does that make him a racist? How about the black women that leave the black neighborhood because they don't feel safe? Is that racist? It's funny how you put that on us. A lot of people are getting tired of this stuff. And they're not all just white. Can't even act right on a cruise ship. Cruises are supposed to be fun. And they're arguing with crew members. Just like they do here. crew members that have the right to throw you in the ship's jail. Well, I don't know why you hold me. I don't know why you held me. I told you why I'm holding you. These were not white people on that cruise ship. They were Hispanic. They were Puerto Rican. They're arguing and getting rude with them. Well, I'm filming you. I'm filming you. You go ahead and do what you got to do, but I'm not going to make a scene for your little camera show. Your daughter was acting up. She's on a hold, and this is the law on this ship. I remember a black man was in Hong Kong when I lived there, and he was standing in front of a business. Now, this is China. And he was grabbing Chinese people's cell phones, ripping them out of their hand when they were walking down a public sidewalk taking pictures. Chinese culture takes pictures of everything. And they were not taking pictures of him. They were taking pictures because it was a new business and they were curious about what it was going to be. You cannot take pictures of this. They said, yes, we can. It made the Hong Kong news and China was ripped. Who does this guy think he is? Acting like that in our culture and doing that to our people. That dynamic exists in a lot of them right here. They can do and say whatever they want. Nobody's supposed to question it. That's the law of the jungle right there in a nutshell. And I could embody that. I could say I can do whatever I want, say whatever I want, and no one can hold me accountable. No, I can't. This doesn't teach that. There's both a pro and con of the internet. The internet's exposing this. That the internet's a platform for narcissism. The internet's a platform for young ladies showing off their bodies in their bedrooms all day long, getting likes and hearts and likes and hearts. They're not developing heartfelt relationships. They're not working on the inner beauty of the heart. Everything's becoming superficial, sensational, drama. Two black women tearing each other up in the streets will get thousands, millions of views. But actual sane and sound commentary is largely ignored. I'm concerned about the direction, not just America, but where this world is headed. And there's a dark shadow that hangs over my head every day that this country is losing it. AI is terrible, Chris. AI is programmed not by the correct people either. And what I mean by that is it's got a bias. It's favoring Google, YouTube, and the leftist ideologies. I'm 130 miles east of you. I hope so, K-Bar. I still believe that in America there's more people on the correct side of thinking than are on the wrong side of thinking. Oh, hello, the usual. What Crystal said is wisdom. If people don't like my content, nobody's got a gun to your head making you listen to this. You're free, man. You got millions of YouTubers on there. Go find one you like. Thank you, Lanita. You too. You take care. beef chicken industries. I'm a her, huh? See an example of hatred coming from, see that? I'm not a woman. I just said at the outset of this video, I got a cold, but I've also had allergies because air quality's been bad. And it is affecting my voice. And I've never smoked in my life. Crystal, you're telling me to hit the 3 red dots. You're not making any sense. You're here. I don't know where you stand. I haven't been reading all your comments. I'm assuming you're against what I'm saying. You could push not even a 3 red dots. You can hit that little red X up there and be out of it. Frayed, how are you? Oh, yesterday morning, 27,000 views. It was an awesome stream. It was on fire. I'm sorry, Fred. Got you, Boondock. Oh, yeah, that's not good. Crystal, I look at a little bit of everything. Most of what I look at is not bad stuff, but commentary on the bad stuff by people who have right thinking. And I can only handle so much of that. And I will eventually say, man, I can't deal with this anymore. This is negative. I'm out. I used to watch Cops, and more Cops and America's Most Wanted. Everybody did. Then it got to a point where it's like, you know what? This stuff is actually negative, and I didn't watch anymore. I'm sad America's Most Wanted is gone. That actually netted dangerous people. That was a good show. And Joe Walsh lost his own son, and that's what made him start that show. It's too bad we don't have that. He took a very negative situation, turned it into a positive, and it involved Americans paying attention. And they would see somebody and turn in tips, which netted an arrest. And I think that is a really good thing. But thank you, Fred. And Crystal, I get what you're saying. My apologies. I struggle being transparent here with getting caught up. I'm fighting Irish, and I don't fight with the fist, okay? I fight intellectually, and I get caught up in a lot of the stuff because I see things that anger me, and I know I can't do anything about it. And I've got a war going on myself right now. God has allowed situations to happen in my life right now where he is forcing me. Between that and my pastor's preaching and Sunday school, God is triangulating on Michael Nelson. God the Father, God the Son, Holy Spirit are starting to just point in and say, I was honest. I did a YouTube video, 3 minutes talking about that. Since I lost my job over that. I've been unemployed for 2 weeks. Nobody that's close to me agrees with that. Apparently, they had something in their policy about social media. When a supervisor from another school district that I spoke to use as a reference, I told her about it, and she goes, your freedom of speech has been denied. And I didn't say anything that was racist. I spoke truth. Thank you, Mason. And I did. I put in an application the other day. I had a positive lead. But guess what this taught me? No more discussing where I work next place. See, we get trained. Crystal, I know you'll agree with this. Do you know that our society, our workplace, cultures train us, good or bad? When you put your personal information, you got trolls on here to try to get you in trouble. And it hit me that, man, I'm so transparent and honest, and somebody's messing with my job. They uploaded the video to TikTok to cause trouble. Crystal, it was devastating to me because that doesn't happen to me. And I have looked in the mirror, even this morning, in the quietness, I stared in the mirror. I get up every morning. Even if I'm not physically working hard, I always do if I go out and sweat all day working in the yard or at work, I come home and bathe. But if I'm not sweating and I'm low key, pits, crotch, butt, feet, wash it all. Sponge bath, freshen up my face, because I like to smell good and be clean. But I stood there and stared in the mirror and I said, God, I don't have a family. I don't have anything here. And it's just me and you. There's a book called The Man in the Mirror. Yesterday I did a stream where I really felt like the Holy Spirit was behind it. It was not so much about current stressful events. It was about God. Anybody get a chance to listen to some disturbing truths? I think most people who listened to that came away feeling like they had church yesterday. There were trolls, but there were more sustained people staying in and listening because the content got to them. I have a black neighbor. Good man. He's got bars over his windows. And they're not for me. Okay? They're not for me. He's got floodlights all around his house that even shine on this wall. They're not motion lights, they're floodlights. People laugh. The reason I have this, the lights are so bright, and I like to sleep in a dark room. The lights don't bother me. You got some Karens who complain, those are on and they shine in my window. Put a covering. I got blinds, and the other reason is the heat. The afternoon sun in the west in Georgia is brutal. This cinder block wall, but the heat blasts in the afternoon. So there's a little insulation. I struggle with my relationship with God, people. I get caught up in a lot of the current events. And I have to discipline myself to stop. Look at Jesus when he walked along the Sea of Galilee on the shore and said, "Come, I will make you fishers of men." What would it have been like to be called out by Jesus out of my profession and you get intimate teaching from him for 3 years? Crystal, thank you for that. I needed to hear that. Because as a man, everything depends on what I can do. So it's a blow, no matter what. I'm not rejoicing. Oh, yay, I got fired. And I told the HR lady very calmly, I said, this is overreach. This is ridiculous. My work ethic was outstanding. You're not going to find a worker. She even said, I know the feedback I've got on your work. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not a Southerner, and And I'm not saying all Southerners are this way, but there's a lot of lazy culture down here. And I've had grown men 3-4 times my strength. Man, you work hard. Why do you walk so fast? Everything you do is energy. Where do you get all your energy? The culture down here is contrary to everything that's Michael. And I've reached out to it. I've tried to build bridges. It's not easy. It's not easy. This culture down here has been one of the more negative experiences I've had in the continental United States. Sharon, I have hobbies. This place doesn't have a lot to do. It's known for the masters. That's it. There's nothing for the kids to do but go to Boys and Girls Club or why? We have no swim parks or water park. We have nothing. They won't bring anything here. People say the masters prohibits that from coming. Politics. And it's not easy to reach and be friends. I've been going to this church for a little while now. Last week I had 2 women that normally never greeted me come up, touched me on the shoulder and said, "We heard you stand up and we want you to know we're praying for you." Crystal, I need people. It's so easy to get content with social media. I had a roommate. She's a school teacher that works for the same employer. She said, "This is bogus. This is not right." She lived in here 15 months. Lived in a bedroom that I remodeled and got ready for her. Best roommate I ever had. No hanky-panky, no fooling around. We went through Hurricane Helene in this house together. We actually had a good time in spite of all that happened. All the power went out, trees went down, tree went down in my yard, damage everywhere. God was good. The world closes in on you, though, when you go through something like this. And the only outreach I have is you through this. So social media can be a good thing. Many of you are here for the same reason. You're not all here because you got a healthy, well-adjusted friend life and everybody's keeping you so busy that you don't got time for this. We're all here for the same reason. And many of you come and stay because I'm not polished. I don't have a professional studio. I don't have a suit and tie. I'm just real. I'm authentic. I talk about my struggles. I admit to you, I'm not always where I want to be in my walk with God. And how do I get there? How do I get up in the morning focused? I read this. This is my daily thing. I'm sorry, you're going to laugh. They're my toilet bowl devotionals. Get up in the morning, grab my Bible, my daily bread, sit on the toilet, do my daily constitutional, and read the little devotional, read the scripture. But when it comes to praying, it is easier for me to rant. It is easier for me to talk than it is for me to sit down, buckle down, and say, and I do talk to him. If I was to put on a live, you would hear me say things that would blow your mind. Sometimes I'm not very, I'm blowing up. I was sitting at my dining room table finishing a jigsaw puzzle, mostly out of nerves waiting for them to make a decision at HR day after endless day. And I looked over the chair I normally sit in when I eat. I said, God, I wish you were just like sitting there where I could see you. I know your word says you are with me. You'll never leave me or forsake me. But it's hard when I'm talking. There's nobody there in my face. Like I could talk to Crystal if I'm talking to her, even though I don't see her. But there is that part of me. I wish I could experience being Elijah where famine's bad and I'm by a brook and God's got my water and the birds feed me I would love, or the burning bush. Michael, take off your sandals. What? God? Uh-huh. Take your shoes off, boy. This is holy ground. Yes, sir. You got my attention now. I wish I could see the Red Sea go. I love the ocean. I'd love to see the things God did in with the Israelites when he led them out of Egypt. I would love to see that kind of, I'd like to have that kind of relationship, but we live in that silent era. We don't see those big acts. I've seen evidence. I saw him in Helene. I was bold. I was unafraid. That big oak tree went down. Crack! I cussed. I said, bah! The one tree in the whole neighborhood that was healthy by the tree doctors reckons, I had them remove 2 trees that were danger. That last spring, a year ago, I suddenly got up one day. I had been raking between the partial privacy fence and that big giant oak. It was right on the back southeast corner of the house. Big boughs over my house, over the neighbors. And one day I'd raked around the base of the tree behind the fence, and I walked around and I was over, I don't know how much time it had lasted, 15 minutes. I heard something and I looked and I saw a rotted smaller limb just go down like a missile right there. I thought, oh my gosh. I was just back there raking. That would have killed me. Snapped my neck. And I looked up, I said, you're done, tree. There's pieces falling off you. It was green. But the squirrels had torn up holes. There were hollows in it. I'm not waiting for that thing to fall. It'll crush the house. I paid $4,200 to have that thing removed. That's how big it was. If I didn't remove that, Helene would have deposited that through the roof, through the attic, it would have crushed the house. That was God. Even though I don't see him, he prompted me, he pushed me to feel that sense of urgency to call somebody and just get it out. Wisest thing I ever did. And he told me the one next to it, halfway down, even with the gable on the east side of the house. When I woke up at 2 a.m., we were in the eye and I didn't know it. I said, man, they called no school. I get a free day off and it's just doing nothing out there, a little misty rain. Within 30 minutes, as I'm sitting at my laptop, what? The power's flickering on and off. Then it went. I thought, oh boy. When it came back on, I logged out of Facebook, shut the thing off. I went and looked outside. I said, what is going on? There's no wind. There's no, what? And then literally within minutes, the rains, the wind was making noises I hadn't heard. I knocked on my roommate's door and I said, I need your car keys. I got to move the truck in the car. We got a hurricane. An hour later, the one healthy oak came crashing down. It would have crushed the truck. Missed the roof by that much. One of the limbs, that big, went straight down into the earth in the lawn. We were looking out the living room window, all the way on the west north-facing side. I heard the crack, I mean deafening, with all the wind and the rain. It came down, I could no longer see clearly to the street. Filled the front yard, missed the house. And I said to her, I said, what did I tell you? Murphy's Law, if your name is Michael Nelson, it will go wrong. That's what I started saying. Get a project. I get my tools laid out. I thought, this will be easy. 5 hours later, I'm like, why is it everything I do turns into a struggle and a fiasco? I mean, I'm like, God, am I under a curse? Yes, you are. Oh, I was working. I was working. I lost my job 2 weeks ago. No, not 2 weeks ago, just this Tuesday, excuse me. Well, they put me on hold for 10 days, no pay. And I told HR, I said, you guys are treating me like some sort of a criminal. Even their investigator who was in that meeting said this. Michael, you've heard it said, politicians say, don't talk about the elephant in the room, and you talked about the elephant in the room. And as I was leaving, he said, call me, send me an email. You did this on your private time, on your private channel. He was telling me, this does not have anything to do with my work. And it's not racist. It would not be racist if a black man or woman said, I don't feel comfortable in a majority white community. I can't call that racism. If you said, I don't want to be around any white people at all, okay, now you got a case. And you got people saying that. A lot of Americans, people told me I should move to Chinatown. You know how many Americans say, man, I would never live where there's a bunch of Chinese. They did it in Canada. They brought them all over to Vancouver when Hong Kong was handed back over in 97. They call it Hongkouver now because a lot of Chinese left because they thought communism was slam their fist down. And the Canadians welcomed them, and they drive crazy and they pushy shovey, and the Canadians are now jaded about it, and they're not real happy about it. Other cultures can bring positives and negatives. Mine, yours, all of ours. I do not like racism by anybody. Ladies, can I be brutally honest? The Himba tribe in Africa, the ladies don't wear shirts. They've got red clay in their hair. They're clean. I'm like, man, some of those women are hot and sexy. They're black. They're tribal. But they've got standards. They believe in being clean. They're peaceful. They're not a danger to humans. We got more danger in this country than you do in a tribe. I would love to spend time with that. Oh my gosh, what an experience that would be. I mean that. Racism is not in me. If I had enough money, I would go. I wouldn't be able to bring my phone. There'd be no Wi-Fi out there. But I'd journal. I'd stay with him for 6 months or a year. Yeah, Crystal. Can I be honest? I know for a fact, even though there's a big language barrier, I know for a fact one of those ladies would fall for me, and I'd fall for her. We're human. You know, and guess what's happening in America? The dehumanization of us. Let's talk about that. The dehumanization of us. Being told what you believe, what you can believe, what you could say, what you can't. Homogenizing us. Homogenizing, making us all go through the same funnel. You know what? Chat for a minute. I'm going to get my juice. My throat needs a little liquid. Y'all remember the 2020 and the COVID lockdowns? I feel like I'm on a lockdown. And I can't make everything happen, and God does that. Sometimes God will quarantine us off and say, Michael, get your hands off of this. And who was it? Who put that verse in the room yesterday? Or no, they put it on one of my videos. Was it you, Crystal? Somebody put, be still and know that I am God. Who did that? And I said, wow, tell me, Michael, that that's not for you. You're a doer. You know, it's like Martha and Mary. Martha was fussing. Lord, she's not helping me. Actually, she's doing the best thing. She's sitting at my feet. Yes, Crystal. Crystal and everybody, can I just say this? Yesterday, I felt on fire. I felt like the power of the Holy Spirit was on me, and that whole message in some disturbing truths. 27,000 views, 200 likes, over 200 subs. I was like, whoa, what happened? And I even said in there, I said, it's amazing how I can be on fire and then the devil comes in. And can I be honest? I've got a problem with that. I said, God, why is it I can be on fire and then the devil's just after me? When we got saved, folks, when we got saved by God, we were thrown into a war that we did not declare. Do you realize that? And then God tells us to put on the full armor of God. Wait a minute, I didn't enlist in the military here. Oh, yeah, you did. No, you didn't. You were drafted by the Holy One. Boom. Boom. We were drafted whether we liked it or not, and I'm supposed to suit up, and it's hard. Put on the helmet of salvation. Take up the breastplate. It's hard. I do doubt God. Yesterday I was on fire, but I have times where I'm like, God, do you really care? Dummy. He died on a cross for you. Do you really care? Duh. He gave his whole life for you. Does he not care about right now too? He does. But we believe the lies. And I talked about that yesterday. Wow. The refiner's fire. This is why yesterday was successful on the channel. Sharon, I hate it. I'm sick of being in a fight. Sick of it. Sometimes I even say, God, I just want to be left alone and live in peace. Come on, man, laugh with me, people. I wish I could find some weapon to throw at Satan and exterminate him once and for all. I wish. But Job was righteous, Hollow. Job didn't accuse God. I have. I've cussed at him. You want honesty? When I moved here and bought this house, oh my gosh. When I got away from all that I knew and I came out here all by myself with no support, it began to dawn on me. Do you remember Jacob? Do you remember his name was changed to Israel? And you know why? He wrestles with God. Jacob was deceitful. He pulled that crap on Esau. And then guess what? He wanted that woman, had to work for Laban. Laban changed the rules, gave him the other daughter, and played with him for 14 years to get the wife he wanted. I mean, Jacob was a supplanter, a deceiver. And then he had to run for his life because he thought Esau was going to kill him for it. But one night, Jacob was having an all out with the Almighty. And God touched the hip. Jacob was saying, give me a blessing before you go. He wrestled with God. When I started working on this house, I had basic things down. I know how to hang sheetrock, and I know 16-inch on center on studs. I know some basic stuff. But I was running into things where I was throwing stuff down and having a hissy fit, but punching through my own insecurities, my own deficits. I'm 85% there. But how many times I say, God, do you care? God, and Pastor said this last Sunday in Sunday school, God uses trials. Hello, you noob, welcome. I'm not sure what you're saying, fella, but when a vocal minority online that gets upset over bias, can you explain what you're talking about there so that I don't misinterpret? Bias is not okay. The media has been doing it, and they've left professional journalism and go to bias, which is causing a lot of the problems on our streets today. The Bible talks about submitting to governing authorities, okay? Trump came in, kind of put some moratoriums on D.C. because he said this is the nation's capital. It's full of crime. The mayor ain't stopping it. Nobody's doing anything to clean it up. And what do the people do? They walk down the street and protest. Protest that he wants to stop the crime. That's amazing. So what has happened is we've got groups, people in this country that don't fear God. They don't believe in righteousness, and they're screaming and yelling about Donald Trump trying to clean up the Capitol. Folks, I don't care what you believe. That tells me there's something wrong with a group of people in this country that's not submitting to reason. Submit to the governing authorities. You're trying to clean it up so it's safe for all of y'all. Come on. Back to what I'm doing. I'm not getting off on that rabbit trail. And I realized, Crystal, because I realized God has finally cornered me. He's brought me to a place where he says, it's you and me, buddy. And you obviously are going to find out that you're going to have a wrestling match with the Almighty. Yeah, I had it trimmed. It was getting in the eyes and stuff. I have said that, Crystal. Thank you. Each man did that which was right in his own eyes. Man, you see that. And that will tear apart any country anywhere. We can be different. We can express different. We can be unique. But this covers one thing that we need to be on the same page. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. We need to be on the same page with this. I have people criticize my mullet all day long. There's no verse in there that says, thou shalt not have long hair, thou shalt not have a mullet. What we need to be in agreement on is the truth of Scripture, the truth of God, his absolutes. If we don't have that, then we get what we see in the news every day. And we know things are going to get worse before they get better. We know that this world is waiting for the Antichrist. We know that. They're talking cryptocurrency, digital currency. The mark is coming, folks. Now, I believe the church is not going to be here. The Bible is very, very direct about that. Revelation 4, no mention of the church. Revelation 4, I, John, heard a voice to me speaking like a trumpet. Come up here. Boy, if that isn't symbol of the rapture, I don't know what is. And I will show you what will take place after these things. What things? Church age. 2 chapters of Revelation devoted to the 7 letters to the 7 churches. Chapter 4, the word church is no longer mentioned, and it shifts to the world and to that nation called Israel. Why is it I can defend the word of God unshakingly? Why is it when I go through a problem that I doubt the Almighty? What is the problem with me, people? What is wrong with me? No one can shake me away from the fact that God created this earth in 6 24-hour days. I don't struggle with any of that. I could stand toe-to-toe with any atheist and say, you don't have any proof that evolution is a fact. You have zero proof. Hello, Tyler. Yeah, Hollow. And it also says Samson was to take a Nazirite vow. No razor of the head, no strong drink. So he couldn't have wine. That is a Southern thing. The South was not just racist back in the day. They said and did a lot of things to a lot of people. Redhead kids were called children of Satan down here. My uncle is 80 years old. He was born and raised in Virginia. He's out in Washington now, and I was having a talk with him a couple weeks ago, and I was shocked. When I visited him in 2008, my hair was short. When I told him my hair is down past my shoulders, I was shocked. He got angry. Michael, why? I said, I like it. We're not going to talk about that, Michael. We're going to talk about something else. He's Southern. Southern men believe it is wrong for a man to have long hair. They think they're hippies. Is that based on the Bible, or is that based on a culture and an upbringing? I respect my uncle, and I dropped the matter because I'm not going to, not him. I thought, my gosh, if I went out to go get the stuff that I've got in storage over there, would he be so against it that I wouldn't be able to stay the night? You know, that's what we have to look at. And our society's funny because they'll make a trip over hair. And then you got movements in this country, LGBT. They want to force their ways on all of us. Drag queens reading story time to kids. And you expect society to embrace this? We don't have to. Children should not be influenced by people with deviant lifestyles. That's right, Crystal. Be careful about that. Section 8. We all crucified Christ. Our sins put him there. Cannot blame the Jews for that. The Catholics did that, and the Catholics were very anti-Semitic, and that is why Hitler gave rise to Hitler, because one of the popes told Hitler, hey, what are you doing? And he said, I'm just finishing what you started. Don't believe me? Do your research. True Catholicism is not scriptural. It is not biblical Christianity. And the history of the popes and papal infallibility and the stuff that they've done, you can read it yourself. There's nothing Holy Spirit about any of that. Martin Luther started the Reformation. He read the book of Romans and said, it is not by works, it's by grace. That's right, Crystal, spot on. That is true, Section 8. Our sins put Christ on the cross. You cannot blame the Jews. The nation of Israel rejected a Messiah, but not everybody that was Jewish did. Nicodemus got saved. He came to Jesus at night, and the most famous verse we quote was quoted directly from God to him. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, unless a man is born again. Read in the Bible. There were Jews who got it. There were Jews who believed. You cannot say the Jews put them there. The religious ones did. But you're missing something. Our sins put him on the cross. He had to come. He had to die. That was prophesied. He had to come before he could be a mighty warrior and smash the power of corrupt governments. He had to come humble on a donkey the first time to save us. But the next time he comes around, there's going to be no woke, no pussyfooting around. The man, the almighty God, Jesus Christ, is going to come down on that big horse and all the saints with him, and game over. I long for that day. But God is patient. God is desiring people get saved. He'll show up when he shows up on his timetable, not mine. And that's the problem with my personal life. A lot of stuff happens to me. I pray, nothing happens to people doing horrible things. Then I got to say, well, look at what Hitler did. Look what Stalin and Lenin did. God is not out of control. He gives man free will. He allows things, even that evil, to prosper. But guess what? A season. A season only. Russia had the Iron Curtain up for a season. 1989, the walls came down, and the very thing that the Russians forbade Russians to have, the Russians were begging for. Send us Bibles. That's what Jesus meant. The gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Hold on a second. By Jews, we define by bloodline Hebrew. You cannot say they were not Jews because they became a Christian. Christian is not a race. Christian is not an ethnicity. Christian is a word that was used back in the day to define us. It was never used by the apostles. The apostles used the word saints. The Catholic Church does not have the right to canonize a saint. When you put your faith in Christ Jesus, you become a saint of the living God. Fact. To the saints and all the epistles, to the brethren, to the saints. Be careful, Section 8. Be very careful that you don't embrace anti-Semitism. Remember what God said in Romans about it through Paul. Do not boast against the branches, Gentiles. Some of them were broken off that you would be grafted in because of Israel's unbelief. There are Jews getting saved to this day. They're called Messianic Jews. There are Middle Eastern or Muslims getting saved. They're really in danger. Their families find out they could be beheaded. They're doing it in Nigeria. Hello, Miss Ella. I don't know how I get you on. Don't I have to do it at the start of the stream? But I don't want it turning into a crap show. That's what I don't want. And I think right now we're going to shelve that. Might be something to consider. I need to learn how to bring somebody on. Right now, I'd like to bring Crystal on because everybody's saying good stuff, but I like what Crystal's saying too. I'd like to talk with her about the struggle of how we have doubt even as a Christian. In other countries, it really costs them to exercise their faith. Yes. I want to, Tyler. How do I do it right now? Can I bring somebody in now? How do I do it? What tool do I hit? Let me see this. Community moderation. Nope, that's not going to do it. Oops, flip that down. How do I bring people onto the stream right now? Edit. Nope. That's a light thing. What is this? What is this here? Share with your audience. No, that ain't it. A StreamYards account. Okay, so I have to put another app on the phone. You're going to have to walk me through it, folks. You can't do it here now because I can't do anything on the stream. But I'm open to that. I want people, but there has to be rules. We cannot have it turn into a frenzy fest. I will not, where everybody's arguing and getting mad. I don't want to descend into stuff like that. Got you. Thank you, August. You have to start the stream. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I've seen enough of you guys that I would be comfortable with you bringing on because I don't believe you would come at me with an attack. I'm not going to bring anybody who wants to attack because then it becomes a contest of who's going to dominate. And this is not what the channel is about. You know, I like to debate, but as I get older, I find that debating is not always good because you got people that I could prove by talking right here that they're wrong, but if they don't believe it and see it, it just turns into an argue fest. And I don't want to draw attention to this channel on a drama Jerry Springer basis. I'm not comfortable with that. And I agree, Section 8. Benny, I'm thinking of moving to West Virginia, and I never have anybody in here from there. There's an invite option on the same screen. You enter the stream title and choose a background. Jerry. Oh yeah, wouldn't that be fun? I'll bring two women that want to try each other for the first time and they can start unsnapping shirts and bras, right? I remember seeing that. I had never seen Springer, and I remember turning on the TV one day and I was shocked. You know what bothers me, men and women? I have base, dark desires. I mean, when the women wanted to try lesbian the first time and they're undoing their shirts and unsheathing their other bras, I was like, why is that such a turn on for me? Why is it that I can be on fire for God And it's all over Facebook now. Oh my gosh, Facebook is allowing, man, I'd post a picture of a woman back in the day on Facebook that had a sock bra on, but the nipples were poking through the shirt. Banned. Now they got their French kissing, everything. I'm like, Facebook has truly become soft porn. Yes, Tyler. I would love to have Bridge on here. I did that on I did not do that on Facebook. I did that on, what was that site called? Sniper was a site. It was a separate site. You could post art and everything. It's huge. Who's bringing the Jello? What was the name of it? Not MySpace. It's where you can go and look at pictures, not Instagram. Why am I forgetting the name of it? You don't hear about it much, but it's big. It's just not out there in the mainstream. Not Rumble. But I had an account. And what I learned with those accounts is you don't get in trouble if you share what's already there. Not DeviantArt, but it's something like that. I like DeviantArt, by the way. They've got some very cool art pictures of stuff that are just very fanciful and cool. I like a lot of DeviantArt stuff. Tumblr, that's it. I had a Tumblr account. And man, the trolls came after me. Did you see Mike's Tumblr account? He's talking about holiness and he got all these naked women on there. I said, yep. I like the human body and a female. I don't have a Tumblr account. I don't have any of that. I still struggle with looking at skin, okay? And it's hard. Yesterday, I was on fire. Dropped off an application, went downtown to run some errands, and that depression hit. Not the kind that needs medicine, circumstantial. The sci-fi art is cool. Section 8, we're going to put that on hold because there's a lot of stuff going on with the media, with Israel. People come in here all the time, what's your views on Palestine? When I say I support Israel, that does not mean that I agree with everything they do. That does not make me believe that I think they're sinless. But, excuse me, the Bible tells us, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It tells us that. The Apostle Paul said, guys, I don't have the kind of Christian love in my heart where I could say what Paul said. Paul says, I wish that I myself could be cut off, accursed for the sake of my brethren Israel. He was willing to go to hell if it meant the salvation of his people. I hate to tell my chatters this, but I don't want to go to hell in your place. I don't have that kind of love in my heart. I do not. Hell is forever. I do not want to go to hell for anybody. Even if I had a wife, I don't want to go to hell for nobody because it's eternal. I've gone through enough down here. I don't want to go through that. Paul, nobody is wired like Paul. Nobody. People, even in the religious community, thought he was mad because of his devotion to Christ. You ever been around Christians that are just so uptight? You can't talk about a pickup truck. You can't talk about horseback riding. Innocent, cool stuff. Oh, I just focus only on Christ. All that's of the world. Okay, yeah, you're one of those. put on a robe and stand on the top of the roof waiting for Jesus to come back. There's nothing wrong with having interests. Nothing. Right there, Section 8, and let's focus on that. The gospel is for the whole world, including the Jews. Okay? And it's our job. There was a Jewish gal I had the hots for years ago. Oh, my gosh, Naima Collins. Beautiful. Her mother had an interest in me, but I was not interested in Mom. Every time we'd come out of church, Naima got on top of the roof of the Crescenta. She had a sleeveless shirt on and she stretched out on the roof, laying there looking at me. Oh my gosh. And I told her mother, I said, I'm interested in her. They would invite me over to watch Christian movies, Mark IV productions. I was all over, never dated her, but I liked her. But they were Christian. The hypocrite is what keeps the wife and I from going to church. But what is the hypocrite? Look, there's people, August, that bother me that are Christians. Don't rob yourself of the blessing of hearing the word of God and singing praises to God over some clown. That's what Satan wants. To pull our hot coal out of the fire and try to do it alone. I just admitted yesterday we're not Lone Ranger Christians. When we're a Christian, it's a group event. We need to get involved with other people. Now, there's some people you have to put a filter on. There's some people you can't be friends with because they're at various stages. I had to tell a woman this week at that church, I thought I could be friends with you as a Christian woman. I said, every conversation we have, you turn it into a point of contention. And she wears spirituality on her sleeve so much that it's ridiculous. It's not natural. Excuse me, blow the snout. I don't want to be around Sally self-righteous. That does not help me in my daily walk. And she's pretty and she's nice, but I just can't deal with all that. And I've done that, but the one I'm going to now, I finally have a relationship with my pastor where he calls, how is everything? And we can talk. I haven't had that in years, so I thank God I had that. Crystal, did you leave? I hope you didn't. The goal is to enjoy this life. Well, Sharon, I don't know about that. Sometimes churches are teaching that we can have fun for Jesus. And the Bible says all that desire to live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. Oh, thank you. Can I ask, there's people I'm not familiar with. Where's everybody from? Put out your state. We won't personalize it and get your address in here, but what state are y'all from? If you don't mind, Hollow, Sharon, Section 8, Crystal. I'm in Georgia. California. All right. I lived in Mammoth Lakes and Torrance. 17 total years in Cali. I know people that are alcoholic and drinks every day, cursing and every other word. Really? Yeah, that's disgusting. Sharon's from New York. Right on. Hero is from Arizona. Cool. Are you from Augusta? Or no, you told me. You told me. I I got a response on something from social media from a guy in Gay, Georgia. I'm like, Gay, Georgia? I looked it up. It's outside of Atlanta, Gay, Georgia. Hi, I live in Gay, Georgia. You live in Gay, Georgia? That's the name of the town, Gay. Where's Fortson? Yeah, Gay, Georgia. Oh, and you go 10 miles down the road and there's Lesbian. I live in the town of Lesbian. There is a place called Transylvania. Now that's a weird place. It's actually pretty wild. I wouldn't mind going there. They got castles in Transylvania. Hello there, Shia. How are you? 20 minutes north of Columbus. Gotcha. Gaysville. They changed it at the birth of woke. So what is it called now, Boondock? Who do you think controls the media? Rich elites, Democrats. Twin Bridges, really? I've been to Morgantown. I spent a summer there. I was actually looking at the cost of cheap houses in various parts. I think I saw a house in Paw for $30,000. Some of them are a mess. Man, after what I went through with this, I don't mind buying a fixer-upper, but I don't want to be a slave to it like I have been with this. See, Larry Shea, I did get some cut. I listened to you, ladies. Section 8, I have no idea. Zero idea. Remember years ago when I was speaking of Twin Bridges, I lived in Minnesota in Duluth. I was driving the church bus. We were on Skyline Boulevard, and then you go around. And Gene, who headed up the bus ministry, was telling me, yeah, this place is called Twin Ponds. The kids all go swimming here in the summer. And one of the kids on the bus said, no, we call it Twin Toilets because everybody pees in there. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Twin toilets. That's what I was thinking, Larry Shea. Now, Section 8 on that one, I don't know because I don't think Dr. King was encouraging the kind of stuff we see today. He stood up, and he had every right to because of what was going on. This crap today is a whole different animal. Whole different animal. And I do believe the Democratic Party is responsible for that. Okay, you're talking about the Rothschilds. You know, corrupt as all get out. The Rothschilds, and what's the name of the other clowns? Can't remember the name of the other big family involved in Washington in some ways. The Rothschilds to me are evil. The Bilderbergs, but what's the name of the other one? Not the Clintons. Clintons are small potatoes compared to these guys. There's the Rothschilds, Rockefeller. Was it Rockefellers? Yeah. There's nothing. I have nothing good to say about them. I don't bother studying the Rothschilds. I just know they're corrupt. I don't want to study those people. I don't want anything to do with them. George Soros. I know where you're going with this. I know exactly where you're going with this. And yes, you're right. Okay? There's a lot of Jews that are corrupt and they want to dominate and control stuff. George Soros is one. Zuckerberg is one. Barbara Walters was one. And she started The View. When I say I support Israel, I don't support all that stuff. No way. The Jews, the nation of Israel, is in complete disobedience to God, and we know that. They cut off the Messiah, it says. But we cannot call them Christ killers like the Catholics did. Our sins put him there. But you know what's going to happen? During the tribulation, the whole world is going to turn against Israel. Bible makes that very clear. And some of that, it's all going to be rooted in a hatred towards God. But some of that could also be fueled by the Rothschilds and the evil people that were Jewish that did horrible things. I'm aware of that. I'm totally aware of that. I do not give Jewish people a free pass. I never have. Never have. Well, I applied at one and turned it in yesterday, Larisha. It was a promising one. We'll see what happens. That's right, Crystal. We cannot blame the Jews for the crucifixion. We live in America today that if Jesus Christ were to walk down these streets, I think people do the same thing all over again. He's sinless. He's perfect. Section 8, I'm just going to be honest, you got a fixation. I'm concerned about that with them. Be careful. I hear what you're saying, but be careful. You cannot blame the Jews for the problems of the world. That's what Hitler did. That's what a lot of tyrants did. We are the problem. We're sinful. We have corruption at all levels. We got corrupt Jews, corrupt whites, corrupt blacks, corrupt Hispanic. Sin is everywhere. Hell, we're not talking anymore about my work. That's what started this whole thing, was a troll on here. Cannot. I will answer no questions about work anymore. And I'm not being rude to you. I had a meeting with some of the moderators, and because being honest, and I'm not against being honest, you got trolls that are just a continual problem. Some personal things just need to be left off my channel. I have no problem talking about my struggles. Everybody's got them. People want to be self-righteous because I struggle with this or that. Okay. They got their sins too. Everybody does. Thank you, Larissia. Larissia, you've never done wrong to me, ever. Not even once. Look, I even felt bad the other day when you told me to stop putting that picture up. I respect you. You know, me being a dude, that's all. All the guys were enjoying the scenery, and I was kind of riding on that. The problem with the Pharisees and the scribes you're welcome, Larissia. Because I don't feel good about disrespecting people. If you're a child of God, you can't feel comfortable with that. It's not right. Everybody liked my Scooby-Doo shirt. I thought I'd wear something different today. Nobody has gotten mad at a Scooby-Doo shirt. Nobody. Take me home, country road, to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads. Thank you. Hey, dog eat dog. Where's Nika or Neeks and Doggy? Rot-row. Yep, zoinks. Look out, Scoob. The locals down here, when I first came, my hair was really messy. It wasn't clean like this. And they all called me Shaggy. I said, my face doesn't even look like him, but people have to have something to identify things with. So I got so mad when I first got on here. It puts the lotion on the skin, and I'm like, what are they talking about? Then I typed that into Google, and I was like, Buffalo Bill. Some horror movie. Then it puts the lotion on the skin. Now they're typing, I delete the comments. Puts the lotion in the basket. Puts the lotion in the basket. What are they talking about? Yeah. You too, Sharon, and your prayers are needed. I want to be able to say I got to go to work now too. Good night. And just like that, I was out. Went down to the Department of Labor yesterday. Had the privilege of seeing a young woman in there with her pajama bottoms and a pajama robe on. Well, that's cute. That's real cute. It is Friday, isn't it? Section 8, you can go to my favorites and my selected music. You can pull up my channel and you can see all my playlists. Lots of stuff in there. I have different categories like cool sounds, Pacific's favorite, classical, whatever, everything. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. I'm mad. I need to be doing something. I don't like all this. And it's affected me so bad. I'm guilty. I sit and surf the internet all day because I don't mentally, I need that back. That'll put the fire into my butt to do these other things. Today's a washout. they got a job temps down the street, but the problem is it's right across the street from work. You know, and you're right there. And it will, because by next week, I got a couple things I got to do, but I'm going to go down to the job temps and say, look, you got something? What do I need to fill out? You can either ride a van or drive yourself. I've seen the van driving around. I'll drive my truck. Job temps might be the way to go. Day labor. Day labor can scrap it together. You can have them take the taxes out, like clean up a bunch of junk at a construction site. Now that's my thing. Give me a project. I can do these things. I love that stuff. Ha! I'd have to see that. Boondocks, I'd never seen that. Sharon, you have a good day. Be safe out there. I'm going to look out the window because we've got flooding warnings and everything today. That hurricane's got a tail that's swinging right over us. Actually, I think the advisory kicks in at 8 a.m., so it's pretty calm out there. Well, I polished off a whole bag of nuts. Sniper, are you still in here? I wanted to show you this. Somebody offered to trade me this for an item, and that is a stick with a 5.0 and 76,000 miles and a 4x. I'm definitely interested in it because if I move, it's got an 8-foot bed. I can put a topper on it. It's got a trailer hitch. I can put a small U-Haul trailer. I don't like the white truck I have. I don't like it. It does not suit my needs. That one's decent shape Ford, which is rare. Hurricane Aaron is rolling around on the Atlantic. It just missed you guys. It's north of you. It's 500 to 700 miles across. And it's causing problems in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. They evacuated one of the islands. But it's sitting just out. The surge is coming. That thing was a 5. And if that thing slammed into the Carolinas, it's going to be total. This thing is a monster. It's huge. And it's just drifting. It's just literally just 200 miles offshore and just lazily heading north. I'm not familiar with him. Or her. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are going to walk all over you. Are you ready, Boots? Have you guys seen this? This is not inappropriate. This is actually Florida, the spring break, where they do the body paint, where it looks like clothing. I'm going to show you something that's going to shock you all. Let's see. Let's see if this works. That's me in 2008 in a conventional school bus in Hibbing, Minnesota. Look at that, Larry Shea. Look at that head. That's how you want me to look, huh? I would feel so insecure with that haircut. Really? I don't like it. Now remember, I've aged since then. Let me show you the one where I'm in the Philippines. That's me in the Philippines at a pump for the house I was staying in. That's 2008. I was in Iloilo/Miagao. Larishia, are you serious? Why is it nobody wants me with long hair? I had my hair short and nobody thought I was sexy, Larishia. Nobody. So I just said, screw it. My friend in Cleveland was telling me to get a tail. I said, no, that looked good. And he sent me some pictures. Yes, remember that, Harrow? Not all, Andy. There's some women at work said, you better never cut that hair. There's some coworkers who run their fingers through my hair. Pull my hair back for a side-by-side? What do you mean? Oh, Crystal, you got that right. You got that right. That's it. You don't want me like this. Look, I look like a fly. That's ugly, Larishia. You think that that's sexy? Look, if it's that short, like it is in that picture, I know, me no like. Rapunzel. Doggy, there you are. I was just talking about you. You must have heard me. I said, where's Doggy and Nika and Neeks. Hey, Adam. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, it's kind of hard to do because not the same glasses. Those are my Thomas Dolby glasses. They don't even make those anymore. I love those. In fact, I think I got them in here. They're in my drawer. They were round. Science. It's poetry in motion. Ba-bum, ba-bum. Now she's making love to me. Well, that's good, Adam. I just found out the way to do likes on a live is to tap the screen. I kept seeing you guys say that, and I tried it yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, it works. I watch a couple lives. I was watching reels of a young lady in Africa. Don't know which country. She's an adult. She's pretty, slender, and she wears shirts where you can see the areola and the nipple. And it's nothing but video after video of this. In her strong accent, what do you think? And I wrote her today and I said, yes, you're very attractive. But unfortunately, everybody's here for one thing, the lust factor. Do you want a relationship with somebody? Doesn't that get old? Being a woman, doesn't that get old? You can show your tots, show your tots, show your tots, show your tots. Doesn't that ever get old? That's what I want to know. Don't you ever get just tired of that? And these women are objectifying their own dang selves. And they'll never be taken seriously. I'm a guy. I'm lonely. I'm not going to lie. When I say lonely, I'm not desperate. But the thought of a young woman coming over and climbing into my bed with me is very pleasing to me right now. And when I say young, she's an adult. And it doesn't matter. It's Africa, the Philippines, Thailand. Nepal. They're everybody's getting on. Most of these women are getting on there and they're shaking their stuff. Shake it to the max. Shake it to the max. I don't know what God wants for me in that department. I've been on major withdrawal for 7 years and it sucks. I've been very promiscuous over the years and just did what I wanted, and I've been on a detox for 7 years. Oh my gosh. 7 years plus. Larashia, I would love that. Well said, Boondocks. Well said. Yeah, but Andy, that's not always true. I'm not going to find that here. No way. I've been here 6 years and I'm friendly and I get out there. They're not interested in me here. The ones that are interested in me are the ones I don't want to date because, well, lots of reasons it's not going to work. I want to live in that. That'd be beautiful. You're not going to be able to go to Lowe's and find a front door for that place, though. That door is like 50 feet tall. You could drive a semi-truck through that front door. That's amazing to think they hand carved that stuff 2,000 years ago out of the canyon. That's flippin' awesome. That's just freaking awesome. Petra in the country of Jordan. I'd love to see it. Oh, Larashia, but it's been 7 years. I'm not even looking anymore. Yeah, the country of Jordan, south of Israel. Yep, the Treasury Building, otherwise known as the Kasne. We're going to change the song, Rock the Kasne. They have camel trips that go in there, and you walk through a feature called El Sik, which is a cut through the canyon, windy and curvy. That's in the city of Petra. It's called the Rose Red City, half as old as time. It's otherwise known as Edom. And it's very interesting when you study the Bible that Edom was red and hairy. And Edom basically settled that region. And that city's Rose Red City. It's funny how a lot of symbolism. The ancient religions of Petra were bad. The Nabateans lived there, and they sacrificed children by throwing them off the top of the canyon walls. It was not a pretty place to be when they were doing their religious services. It is. They carved that out of the face of the canyon wall, and that's not the only one. I had a coffee table book I checked out from the library that showed Petra, and there's building after building, all carved Some of them are a little more worn down, but that one's beautiful shape because it's not directly taking a full hit of the weather. But you got other buildings where the canyon flooded, and every time it flooded, the water was eroding the pillars and stuff. So the upstairs looks good, but the down is just, you can see the effects of erosion on it. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I guess I had better end the stream, folks. Thank you, Boondock. And thanks for coming, and have a good day. And I'm going to sign out. Everybody have a good day, and your prayers are warranted. Oh, yeah, me too, Crystal. But you guys have a good one. And if you feel so inclined, please sub. And be safe. We'll see you next time.